So following on from this morning where we took the bus and the cable car up to the Wuyu Temple, if you have no idea exactly what I'm on about, go back and watch some of the previous episodes. This is a kind of a series that follows why and how we moved from the UK to Australia. Part 4 is linked in the description down below, and this is a larger format of videos that explains why and how we moved from the UK to Australia. Back in 2008, yes, we could have taken a flight, but where would the fun in that be? That's why we're about to start a 6-hour walk to the Hong Ching Ping Monastery. Unfortunately, the weather was still not on our side, and as you would say in England, the weather continued to drizzle. We saw plenty of waterfalls and local wildlife. And after walking for a few hours, it was time to start climbing the 2,000 plus steps to the monastery.
Oh, my ears are popping. Oh yeah, man. Looks like that looks monastery to me.
It was a hard climb. Even the younger, fitter, 28-year-old me struggled a little bit. Eventually we made it to the top and congratulated ourselves on walking up some stairs. After we had regrouped and caught our breath at the top, we showered and changed and headed out for dinner at the Hard Wok Cafe. Yes, at the top of Mount Ma Shan, there was a restaurant 200 steps back down the hill. We all had a good night, but the following morning before heading back down, I decided I needed to use the facilities. Oh my gosh, probably the best toilets with the best views and air conditioning that I've ever been to. Where did it go? 24 hours later, back at the Gaobao Monastery, the alarm woke us up early at the beginning of day 34 to catch the bus to Chongqing. The bus ride was a long one, taking just over 7 hours. Part of the attraction for us to do the trip through Russia, Mongolia and now in China with Intrepid Travel was that we travelled how the locals did where possible, i.e. we didn't charter private buses, we used public transport where we could do, and that means that if we were running late, the bus would not wait for us. So we had to sprint the last 100 metres to catch the bus. Apparently, this was the shortcut.
Oh God, I dread to go the long way around.
One of my fondest memories from this part of the trip after arriving in Chongqing was that we had a little bit of time to kill before we had to get on the boat to do the Yangtze River cruise. So our group leader took us all out for dinner to a Szechuan hot pot. The sort of meal that was so spicy that my lips went numb, I could barely even speak properly. All 12 of us had the runs, and if you're not sure exactly what a Szechuan hot pot is, Google it. We boarded the boat in the early evening to start our 3-day trip down the Yangtze River. The 3 days on board gave us time since the Trans-Siberian Express over 30 days ago just to stop and unwind and relax a little bit from the madness and the chaoticness of constantly being on the move. One of the excursions along the way was to stop at the Three Gorges Dam and explore some of the areas that would be flooded.
I think there's a fat chunk of tourists in my boat. I would like it. I'll be back.
I'm your number 3 group and local guide. Okay. In this boat about 1 hour.
So they can put us back.
I like that logic.
I assume by now these areas are all underwater. We finished the Yangtze River cruise at Yiqing and stayed the night before boarding a 5-hour bus to Wuhan and took an overnight train for 13 hours to the town of Guilin, where we took a private bus to a small country town of Yangqiao. We spent 3 days in this town, and one of the highlights was the sunset cruise down the river. And the bike ride through the countryside.
A little bit. There you go.
Bloody hot.
The heat from Yangqiao did get the better of us a few times, so as always, I tried to do what the locals would do. On day 42, we did our last train ride on the way to Hong Kong. After being on the road for 42 days and heading across Russia, Mongolia and China, the trip so far had been a cultural experience. And to hit Hong Kong, I was not expecting it to feel so Western and somewhat English. From the cars driving on the left-hand side to the familiar looking street furniture, high street brands that we would see in the UK, including Marks and Spencer's, but still mixed with a definite flavour of the East. We took the funicular railway to probably the biggest tourist attraction, Victoria Peak, which would explain the gift shop.
You get off the train into the gift shop.
And we spent many hours up there just watching the world go by.
No, I just...
Of the 6 days that we had in Hong Kong, we spent our time crisscrossing the harbour, taking in the sights and generally trying to be out of the room as much as possible.
We'll give you a bit of a tour. There is the front door. Come down the corridor, past the bed, the window, then have the bathroom. Cheap, cheerful, not too bad.
Personally, I didn't mind it for what it cost, but Claire wasn't totally on board with the Chungking mansion as I was.
Hong Kong Harbour.
On day 45, we headed to the beach and finally it felt like we were beginning to start our holidays.
Stanley, on Hong Kong Island. We're walking forever to the beach, which so far up to now has been uphill. And it's, as usual, midday, so it's a bit hot.
We get some time on a Hong Kong beach, we kick back and relax, and finally it feels like we're on holiday. To the Hong Ching Ping Monastery. That's why we're going to take a walk to the That's why we're about to take a walk to the Hong Ching Ping Monastery. And that's why we're about to take a 6-hour walk to the Hong Ching Ping Monastery. That's harder to say than you'd think.